Hi everyone, in this module we are going to take cells and use them to build different tissues. We will also combine some of those tissues to make up our first system, the integumentary system, also known as your skin. You could spend a lifetime studying tissues, which we obviously don't have time for here, so we'll be covering an overview of the four major tissue types. By the end of the module, you should be able to summarize key points about each tissue type on one piece of paper by folding the paper into quarters and putting information about each tissue type in its own box. For each tissue type, your goal should be to know the following: where it is located, what it does, its functions, examples or categories of that tissue type, key terms and cell types associated with the tissue type, identify major tissue types from histology or microscope images, and special features of those cells. Be sure to focus on the information covered in the lecture videos. Don't forget to refer to the detailed list of graded assignments and their due dates in the Orientation Resources folder and at the top of the To-Do folder in this module. Now let's get to Module 4. Let's click on our Content tab here. Go down to the module on tissues. Again, we have 3 submodules here. The first one is your Resources folder. You should always take a look at your outcomes and objectives. Now you'll notice there are 2 sets of O and O's here, one for the tissues and one for the integumentary system. These are going to be combined on one test. Then you have your possible short answer questions and some brief integumentary system notes to get you started. As we get further into the semester, the notes will get a little bit lighter and you will be expected to contribute more of your notes on your own to keep track of the information. We have some unlabeled images here for practice, and then of course your Q&A discussion board. Your classmates are a great resource. As you move into the To-Do folder, again, you have your required assignments that will be graded listed at the top here. Your Start Here video that you're watching right now, which will open up the Module 4 test, and then you will want to complete the items in the order they are presented, including the lectures here on these web pages. Let's take a quick look at just a couple of these. If you look at the overview of tissues, you have a crash course video, and then there's a summary worksheet here that I recommend using with your videos to help you organize the information that you're learning. You could spend your entire career just studying tissues. We obviously don't have time to do that. So on these worksheets, I have questions to guide you to the key pieces of information that I want to make sure you understand. You should always be looking over your outcomes and objectives and make sure that you're covering those, but this gives you a good summary overview of the information you need to know. Let's go back into the To-Do folder and take a quick look at the next one. Each tissue type has its own web page. So right now we're looking at the epithelial tissue web page. First, I give you a little overview summary of what that tissue type does or where you would find it. Then we have a crash course video on epithelial tissue, and then I walk you through an overview of information you need to know about the tissue type. I like to do lots of drawings during my lectures and find that simple drawings in your notes can help you better understand the topic. In these other web pages, we continue to cover the other tissue types: connective, muscle, and nervous tissue. Notice that after the muscle tissue, there's a short microscopy lab you will do. That will help you start to learn how to identify these different tissue types from histology slides. After the nervous tissue webpage, you'll notice a microscopy tissue lab again for nervous tissue. Then I walk you through how to create that summary sheet. When you watch this video, have a piece of blank paper handy, and you will create a summary sheet with me that has many of the key points for each tissue type. I would suggest practicing once you've drawn that. Drawing it multiple times can really reinforce it and help it to sink in. It's amazing how when you do something with lots of repetition like that, and then you get to a stressful situation like a test, even if you have testing anxiety, you can sit down and take a couple of deep breaths and close your eyes. You can remember actually writing these things out that you did during practice. So it'll help you a great deal in remembering what you need to know on the test. We have a recommended SmartBook reading and then a required homework assignment on tissues. Then we move on to the integumentary system. Here is your integumentary system lecture page. There's a worksheet here to help you summarize information you're going to learn in these videos. I'm going to walk you through different types of membranes. Then we're going to actually talk about skin. And then we'll finish it up with a bit more detail on skin and skin structures. Then a crash course video just to go a little bit deeper and give you some visuals to go with it. And then a really cool video on skin repair using something called the skin gun. It's only a 3-minute video, so I recommend you take a look at it. Then we end our to-do folder here with a recommended SmartBook reading on the integument, and then a required homework assignment on the integumentary system. Remember that you can just do the questions and the readings and then feed back into the book if you have trouble answering those questions. It's a great way to double check your understanding. Once you've completed everything in the to-do folder, don't forget you can keep track of things over here by checking off items when you've completed them. Then you're going to move into the testing folder. There are some optional review activities and a practice practical for the tissue and the integument. Now, a practical is when you have to physically identify something or name it based on an image or something physical in front of you. This practice practical is going to give you a sneak peek at some of the types of questions you might see during that part of the test. On the test, you'll need to be able to identify the different layers of the skin, the epidermis, the dermis, hypodermis, the accessory structures in skin like the hair shaft, sudoriferous glands, sebaceous glands, and so on. And then for the tissue types, you need to be able to identify different tissues from their histology or microscope slides. You can fail this practice practical and it will not harm your grade. You should absolutely do the practice practicals this semester because they give you a sneak peek at what the practical questions will look like on that test. Then there's an optional Kahoot review. I have to be able to identify your name from your username that you put into it if you want a chance at a bonus point for earning a top score. I have several students with the same first names and some with the same last names, so be sure your username will help me identify you if you want a chance at that point. Then we have a couple of other tools here. Your possible short answer test questions that you should always practice, and some Quizlets you might find helpful. I want to warn you about Quizlets. They're basically glorified flashcards. Now, I'm not a fan of flashcards because they become very passive when you just look at them and go, oh, I don't remember, and you flip it over and go, oh, that's right, and then you stick it to the bottom of the deck. When you do Quizlets, if you use them, use either the write function or the testing function because that will be more like the types of questions you might see on a test. Then once you watch the video that you're watching right now, your test will show up right here at the bottom. If you have any questions as you're working through tissues and the integument, make sure that you reach out.